I always want to be like dancing in the background. I know I say this literally every time. I'm seriously going to have like disco balls next time. Like it's flashing disco balls going because that music just pumps me up. I love it.
I know. So, we're so cheesy like that, right?
Yes, totally.
Good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Yeah. 17th.
It has been a Monday. So for most people, today's school is starting.
Yeah.
We totally get that. And we hope this is a really good break from the stress of that first day of school that's happening. Because who knows, right? If they're in school or virtual or however that's working. But I know Selena's got kids in school, a child that's starting school today. And
right outside those doors is a 9th grader, first day, that is like nervous as heck because she's on 10 million Zoom calls today. So I don't know if I look like panicked while we're talking to Ted today, it's because she's maybe like right there, like, I need to get into my class. I just wanted to preface that. I mean, there's always something with us, right? So
there is always something. So for some reason, Selena jumps up and runs out of the room. Don't be alarmed. It's probably just first day.
All right. I will get myself together. I promise.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's recap. I loved last week's show with Jenna Day and talking about advocacy. And I think it just totally goes into today's theme too just a little, we were actually backstage and we talked with Ted for a good amount and got to know him. Like, I feel like we're friends now. Like, hey, Ted, I know you can see us backstage, but you can't let us go anymore. We're like this. But yeah, what do you think, Anna? Wasn't that a great show? Like,
I did, yes. Last week was really good. I just think that like the whole idea of being part of something bigger than just you, yourself, your company, and also just that tie-in, that what you stand for and how that reflects on your company and really like helping that bigger picture of the social world. Yes. I thought it was really good. And I think Jenna gave some good applicable advice for people that maybe are unsure of where to even start in that world. Yeah. And just the idea that you don't have to be like marching on Capitol Hill to make a difference,
right.
Like small little day-to-day things can really be your thing.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I loved it. Yeah.
And I will, I'm going to just share this too. And it's funny that since we had it, there was a moment, it just reminds me how much I absolutely adore Anna, and she advocates so much for for us as people. But that's all I'm going to say. She's an amazing advocate. I don't know. What's kind of crazy is Anna is a writer. Ted, who's coming on, is a writer. And I'm all like, oh, I feel like I can't speak or say stuff properly today. And I'm like, I asked them about a word that they were talking about backstage, and I was like, "Is that a word?" And then I was like, "Whatever, I'll just keep seeing." Anyway, okay.
Down with that, but
right.
Oh, Nancy, yay!
Yes. We go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, we plug this every week because Selena and I have so much fun doing everything that we do together that we just wanted to add one more thing to that togetherness plate.
Yep.
So we are heading up the Fort Hood chapter of the Association of Military Spouse Entrepreneurs. So if you're a military spouse, if you're living in the Fort Hood area, and if you are an entrepreneur thinking about becoming an entrepreneur, own your own side hustle, and want to kind of maybe look at expanding it, this is for you. Because what we are going to be doing is, there's the link. Even if you're not in Fort Hood, there's some other locations that are also we're kind of beta testing. So we're beta testing these locations. But really, it's an amazing organization with so many tools, and we're going to have guest speakers from the local community area and just resources galore. And it's a great networking opportunity. So go to that link that's in the comments and sign up. We're super excited about that.
That one with my face on it, or Anna's page, whatever.
Yeah. So okay. So so listen. Do you guys remember this? Our new hashtag, the 15-ish MCC. I made a really big deal out of it last week. I was like, I want to see some hashtags coming across Facebook. I'm going to be checking this week. And I think I instilled some fear in some people. So
yeah, this is hysterical. Should we bring it in? Let's talk about it.
I sent this to Selena. This is an email from my mother. Dear Anna, I do not know how to hashtag, so I won't be doing the assignment for this week. Love, Mom. I can't even read it without laughing hysterically.
Yeah. When Anna shared this with me, I'm like, this has to be on our show. We have to like shut out, because one, we did have Mama Annie or Marianne on our show during our Mother's Day edition with my mom, and I love her. So somebody was listening. So thank you. I tried.
I mean, every aspect of this email just cracked. I mean, I cried. I laughed until tears rolled down my face. I thought that was so funny. So anyhow, if anyone didn't follow through on their assignment last week, we're going to give you a reprieve and give you another week.
Yeah. I mean, send us an email even that says you tried, like, and it'll be good. It'll be good. Okay. All right.
All right. So today's show is going to be super duper amazing. Today we are doing a coffee chat with Ted Fauster of Truly Fearless Life. And he is a personal branding strategist for the chronically ill and disabled. But we just had a big conversation with him backstage.
Yeah.
So much more than that. So we're really excited to have him come on today. I think we're going to read his bio and let's take this out really quick.
Go for it, Anna.
Okay, so Ted Fauster is an award-winning author and personal branding strategist. In 2018, Ted was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis, an incurable chronic illness that slowly erodes the nerve fibers in the spine and brain. It was tough, but the hardest thing was that when he reached out to others in the chronically ill community, Ted was appalled to find that so many were living in fear and confusion, and some at near poverty levels. Ted now uses his unique skill set to empower fellow Spoonies and anyone else that might be interested, build and monetize fearless brands that grow organically and provide an authentic voice to their stories, because everyone has a special gift to share. So we're going to bring in Ted.
Yes. Ta-da!
Hi.
We're so excited.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you.
We are excited.
Yeah. Welcome. Okay, everybody. And then this is another thing, right? So if you notice, it says Foster, not Fauster. Because that's what I said, Ted, for a good amount of time.
No, and it's okay. I actually went and I won a creative writing award at the Con DFW, Dallas Fort Worth.
No biggie.
Long time ago. And I went up onto the stage. They introduced me, and I was like so proud to be there. Look at this. So they go to announce my name, and they're like, "Yes, and the winner is Ted Fauster." I'm like, "Oh no." So it looks like Fauster, but it's Foster.
Yeah.
So interesting. Again, and it I did say this, and I don't know if I shared this with you, Ted, but I actually at another duty station, I taught. You know what? And I said ESL. I said ELS. It's English second language is what I taught to like spouses. That's
what my wife does. Well, she works in a school where it's ESL.
I don't teach, so your wife is probably way more qualified than I was. Way more qualified. So anyway, but one of their many questions was, Miss Selena, why can you say, like, let's say Foster, Oster, and I want to say Fauster, so I don't know.
The English language just in general is strange, and when you start to bring in other kind of languages, it gets even stranger. I was actually going to ask you, because I feel foolish, but how do you say how?
How?
Let me try. Is it Hauoli?
Yes. How?
Really?
Oh, that was so close. So I'm going to write it in the comments how you say my name if you're not from Hawaii.
Okay,
yeah, you were very close, actually, and it's funny. If I can. Oh, okay, wait. I'm putting my name up in there. Okay, hold on.
I'm never going to do this.
It's kind of like that, Ted.
So
you're like, stop talking, Ted. You're just butchering it.
No. Okay, so my Hawaiian name is Nohea Valeoi Eku Ipo, and
that's awesome. That's really super incredibly awesome. It really,
I feel so boring. I'm like Anna spelled forward and backwards.
In case there's any confusion.
I went from my maiden name of Johnson to Larson. So really like zero excitement happening in my name here.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
It's easily, digestible.
Yeah. Ted, you know why though? Because she doesn't need an exciting name whatsoever. You just meet her and you're like, this is why they had to give her a little name, because she's so like this, right? Like
that's why you guys are so full of energy. It's like I was kind of concerned too, and I was telling you this earlier, that I have a tendency to like roll in and then I take over the conversation. And my wife says this all the time. She's like, "You gotta stop talking. Other people want to talk too."
I like
talking to people, But we're able to kind of roll and bounce off each other. Yeah. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So
absolutely. Yeah. No, absolutely. Okay, I'm like, wait. Oh yeah, we're doing a show. Hi, Ted.
Yeah. Okay. It's live.
Yeah. Reminder, Selena and I create these this like slide deck that helps us like stay on track, because otherwise we literally would talk for like 3 hours and be like, where what are we doing?
Somebody's doing that.
Yeah. Well, it was recommended by one of our former guests, Michael Miller, when we had a show where a lot happened, and it was like you could tell, and it was a lot of Anna going, oh, and then me going, oh.
You get squirreled, right? It's like squirrel.
Yeah.
And then you go down another. Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah. No, for sure. So now we're gonna. Okay.
So this is the part in the show where we start our 15-minute timer. Oh wait, no, we have to do our coffee chat. Or we have to do our coffee cup selfie first. I'm so sorry.
We're way more organized, Ted. I swear. Okay.
We're doing the coffee cup selfie. So
on 3,
15-ish MCC.
Yeah.
Okay. Like this.
1, 2, 3. Okay.
Did you get it?
All right. Yeah, we did it.
We sure did. I could knock somebody out.
Cheers, you guys.
Cheers.
Oh my God.
Cheers.
So, yes. Okay. So pose for the picture, which hopefully you already did. If not, take it anytime during our coffee chat, and then post it with that new hashtag 15ish MCC.
Remember, Marianne. She tried.
Mom, I am good. I couldn't even call my mom this week to talk to her because that email just made me laugh so hard. I'm like, I just have to wait till after the next coffee chat. Then I will explain to her how to hashtag.
Your mom and my mom would probably get along really well.
Yeah.
They'd talk to each other about technology.
I would listen to a show like that because it would make me laugh. You know what I mean? Like, we should talk about this, Ted. We got to get the moms together, and we're just going to create the show. We'll produce it on the back end, right? And we'll just.
How funny would that be, though? Just a bunch of random, mature women.
Miss Cat's there.
Right. Yeah.
We found a lady. It's called Linda, or was it Linda or Lydia? But she does cooking, and she's older, and but she does Little Linda. So when she's talking, she's like, mix this up and do this, right, Little Linda? And Little Linda, and they talk to each other. And I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. She's got like 1 million followers on TikTok.
Oh my gosh, of course. I love
it.
TikTok. I'll get a fellow thing. I do. I'm like an addict on TikTok.
I'm sorry.
I know. It's okay.
I get it.
You know, I didn't either the first time, and then the second time I was like, oh. And it's literally 1-minute bites of content that I I'm like, okay, I just learned how to do 50 million things, like for my house, on my computer, and I even got a little bit of self-help stuff. Like, it's kind of crazy.
I just feel like I can feel my blood pressure rising, because it's like, okay, how do you make a pancake? And it's like, okay, take this, because they're trying to get their minute in, and I'm like, oh,
right. Much too fast, right? Yeah. I get it. Okay, well, we'll go into a platform for our toolkit, huh, Anna?
Yes. So we're going to go into our toolkit.
Oh, yeah.
So first of all, we're going to start our 15-minute timer.
Oh, yeah, that thing. My bad. And I even hopped over our topic, really. Okay.
Yeah. Let me tell you what our topic is today. I mean, we already kind of introduced it when we introduced Ted. So our topic today is chronic illness, building your brand, and finding your authentic voice. So while I mentioned this earlier, but while we say the words chronic illness, this really is about anybody who has experienced maybe some drama in their life,
Right.
and that's inhibiting their ability to maybe move forward with their business goals or personal goals that they have. And that's really what Ted specializes in. But as he says, his people is the chronically ill community. So this is our topic for the day today. And then we always have a toolkit to help you out with kind of what your business. So we chose YouTube today.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody's very familiar with YouTube, but as a business, you can use YouTube to launch or promote your products, or show kind of what your brand's all about. If you're a good videographer in that sense, you can also monitor feedback, like what kind of comments are people leaving on your videos? What are they saying to you or about you? You can provide customer service. So these are how-to videos. This is how to use my product, that kind of a thing. And then also it's a great way to spread the word about your business, because if you get a really clever YouTube video up that people like, they're going to share it. And that's great, like build your brand through your user base, right?
Yeah.
So we love YouTube. There's some amazing statistics that Selena pulled up. 1.9 billion YouTube users. Okay. 500 hours of video uploaded, not every day, but every minute. 500 hours. That's insane. 1 billion of hours of YouTube videos viewed per day. That's more than Netflix and Facebook combined is what's being watched on YouTube daily. And it's the second largest search engine. So after Google, the next search engine is YouTube. So that's huge. So this is not something that if you're not using this in your business currently, you should really take a look at how you can utilize YouTube and what it can do for you. Anything to that, Selena, Ted? We know Ted uses YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Google actually owns YouTube also. So a lot of people don't know that. So that's why you got the largest and the second largest in the world right connected right there. So it's a great resource.
That's pretty amazing.
And it's free.
It is. Yeah, and it's free. Ted just said it. It's free. And here's how we actually came about our toolkit. Like sometimes we don't know what we want to talk about, and sometimes it comes organically from our research into our clients. And we were emailing poor Ted. He got like 10 million girl emails like this weekend. Hey Ted, da da da. But we were doing research, and I was like, oh, let me go see Ted has YouTube. He has a YouTube channel, and I was just kind of scrolling through what he had, and this is going to segue us into the next thing that Anna's going to share. But I absolutely knew and then I was super excited to have him on the show. Yeah, because I think Ted, we said backstage, right? We were all like, none of us know each other. You never know, and like he was saying, like you never know the energy, right? Like if Ted is like super great, and then he comes on with a host that's like, yes, Ted.
Oh yeah, that's terrifying.
It's terrifying. We're like, we might, you never know.
It's not for that other person. It's just that. Well, I feel bad for people who interview like that because then I get scared that I'm going to be like. Sometimes I can get really excited, and I'm originally from New Jersey, so we talk like this. And it's really loud. You use your hands and everything, and it scares people sometimes. So.
No, I'm Hawaiian, and I don't know if it's a Hawaiian thing, but we often said we're very much like Italians, but we use our hands. We're very animated speakers, and
I would hang with both you guys. This is so perfect.
Yeah, right?
I love it.
You guys, honestly, we've been chatting with Ted like from 9:30 on, and I don't know what time, and sometimes you get scared when like he popped into the feed to check his video, and we were there, and he's like, okay, like wait. And then we were like, oh, hey. Like,
I actually thought we were live for a minute. I'm like, trying to be like real professional, Hopefully the dog's not in the background.
And then you let it out. Okay. So
let me share our first introduction to what we were excited to then have on the show, because our first introduction to Ted actually ended up being a YouTube video that we watched of him. And we're going to share that now because we fell in love with the video, and we think it is a great intro, probably even better than just reading the bio. We probably should have just played this from the start, but we're going to do it now. So hang tight. Let me get this added in and started.
Yeah. Remember, we produce our own shows, so.
Yeah.
Boom. Okay. I can't believe I get to do this. This is so cool. Finally. Hey everybody, what's shaking? I bet you're wondering what this channel is all about, and I'm not going to leave you hanging. I'm Ted Fauster. I'm an award-winning author and a personal brand strategist specializing in defining your brand, focusing your unique message, and transforming your virtual presence into a monetized distance learning mega platform. What the hell does all that? Simply stated, I help you speak in videos and in person about your one true gift. And then I walk you through everything you need to know about building amazing online courses so you can share your knowledge with the world. Even simpler, I help you bring out the best you. Hey, before I forget, please punch that subscribe button so you can help me grow here on YouTube. Okay, a few years ago, I was diagnosed with a rare form of multiple sclerosis called primary progressive. PPMS occurs in less than 15% of the MS community. There is no remission and there's no cure. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. When I first heard that I had an incurable chronic illness, I kind of lost my shit. I got angry, I got depressed. I ate a bunch of gas station cheeseburgers, and I shot up to 256 pounds. That's not good for a guy who's only 5'11". With the help of my wife, my family, my friends, and the super supportive MS community, I was able to put my life back together. That's when I realized something important. Not everybody has the support that I do. I made myself 2 promises. 1, I'm going to get myself in the best physical and mental shape possible. Still working on that one. And 2, I'm going to help all the people who are living alone and scared shitless because they're living with a chronic illness. In fact, I'm going to do more than that. I'm going to show you how to be chronically successful. Whether you have MS or Crohn's disease or fibromyalgia or any of the hundreds of other invisible diseases that affect so many of us, I'm going to be here to provide inspiration and share with you all the cool stuff that I've learned. That includes videography, public speaking, copywriting, script writing, book writing, podcasting, and building online courses. All of this is going to be packaged under the umbrella of the truest and most potent version of you. No snake oil, no smoke and mirrors, no bull. Look, we're all spoonies here. If we don't look out for each other, no one will. This is my time in life. This is my purpose, to get you ready to share your story, because we understand true challenges and pain, and there are others out there who need our help. Are you ready to get fearless?
I like the dance music at the end there. I didn't realize how long that video is. God, I'm so sorry.
No, are you kidding? No, it was we planned it in there. I'm like, it's only like 2 minutes and 37 seconds. That was the perfect amount of time. But what I loved about it is that you introduced everything that you do and who you are in so well in that video. And then also what you're aspiring to help others with. I mean, it's all wrapped up in 2 minutes and 37 seconds. I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you. That was the idea. You know, that's what we train people to do in Portland too, is to, you know, when you're going to talk about your business, you want to have almost like an elevator pitch that you're going through, and that you want to be able to get it out fast. If someone asks you, what do you do? I'm a personal branding strategist for the chronically ill and disabled. And I know that, and I could roll that out. So it goes with your video. It's everything, you know, that you communicate. You have to be able to do it, you think, efficiently and quickly. So.
The first comment that came in after that video, great video, explains who, what, where, why, when, and makes you want to work with the guy. I mean, that's, right? Like, I think that is a big positive, Ted.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No, we did. We, like I said, I went and I was like, Anna, like, look, check out this video. Like, and that's what you want, right, Ted? Like, you want people to be excited about it. And that's what you did.
I want to be like upfront too. And I really am true. Being truthful about the veneer. I don't want anything artificial, because I don't have time for that anymore. I'm sick. I'm, you know, I don't know how much time I have. I don't want to be morbid or anything, but I want to make the most of what I have left. And when you get sick, you start to face your mortality too. So you start to see that, okay, that end that we all know is there. I'm actually, you know, I can see it now. And so everything that I've done, and, you know, when I worked with this group in Portland, it was a great company. And just quickly, that was, you know, Choose Growth was the name of the company. We actually worked with thought leaders. So some pretty big names in the industry, helped them develop their websites and their web presence, polish their brand and get them out there. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm doing this with these people who are making millions. So when I got sick, I was like, you know, why can't I take what I used to do and do that for just a regular person? You know, just not, you know, and just anybody that wants to do it. And that's why I kind of honed in on the chronically ill community and people who are living with disease and disabilities, that they can still do this too. And like you said too, I'm willing to work with anyone that's willing to put in the effort. And it's not easy. There's a lot of effort. There's a lot of things you have to go through and do.
Right.
But you can get results from that. You can, and the best result, truthfully, is being happy. And, a lot of people want to see like this big giant dollar sign at the end, and that's just unrealistic to promise something financially that's going to happen. That's next to impossible to do. But what I can tell you is all the people who are taking my classes tell me all the time, we just feel so much better about ourselves and our brand. And I didn't know that I hear that all the time. I didn't know that I could take this portion of me and make it into something,
Yeah.
I had a girl who was into makeup, and she does like makeup, and she wanted to kind of, and I never revealed, but she had some challenges in her life. But she was trying to build a brand, but she also likes true crime stories. So I was like, after talking to her, we came up with this thing where it's like, what about murder and makeup? So now she's doing like this thing where she's trying to work in like a true crime podcast and do makeup instructional videos at the same time. It's like, who does that? And this is her thing. But she loves all this stuff. And that's why when people, that's when they're like, I can do that. I can use that. I'm like, yeah, you could. This is the thing. You want to be unique. You don't want to be like everybody else. The lady dancing Linda we were talking about, and Little Linda and Big Linda, that's where it all comes down to being truthful about who you are.
That's awesome.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
Yeah. No. I was like, wow. No, but it's so true though, and I think it's like, everything you're saying, I think is, I don't know. It's good. It's good stuff, Ted. Don't ever apologize for talking, because good stuff comes out of your mouth for sure.
Thank you. I ramble. I get caught up in it. I get so excited, and I just want to work with everybody. And
do you want to know the name of my personal blog? It's called My Rambling Thoughts. So
here's that. There you go.
Just letting you know, ramble away. And my blogger name was The Rambler, because I don't know how to shut up. So you're in good company.
And then Anna comes in. She's like, okay, so did we hit that 15 minutes yet, Selena?
I did while you were talking. I think, we have like, it's for show, Ted. This is absolutely doesn't mean anything
Did we just
anymore.
burn through 11, 12 minutes already? Oh,
Yeah.
13.
Yes, I know. It's amazing, right?
Yeah.
So Ted, what Selena and I ended up doing is we took your video, and just from watching it, we had questions that came to our mind about who you are and kind of what you do. So we have two, like I would say, categories. And the first one, category that we came up with, we just titled on being a quote unquote spoonie. So Selena, do you want to? No,
you go. I'll do the next one.
Okay. So basically, one of the things we were like, first of all, we were like, I've never heard this term.
Yeah.
Where does it come from? What is it? And do you consider it derogatory if somebody who's not chronically ill is using it, or is it a general term that we all should have known about and we just didn't?
I'm really glad you're bringing this up, because I never thought that this would be perceived just the way that you articulated that. Can we talk about this if we're not chronically ill? Sure, absolutely. And I think that's why the term was invented, was to create a dialogue. And just to give you a quick background, and I'm blanking now on the woman who, that's one thing with MS, we have really crappy memory, but the woman who came up with this concept was trying to explain what it was like to have MS to her girlfriend. They were at a diner, and she was like, well, I get tired, and the girl's like, well, everybody gets tired. And she goes, no. So she looked around, she picked up all the spoons off the tables and off of a couple next to her, and she had a handful of spoons. She goes, okay, this is your energy for the entire day, are these spoons. So what do you do when you get up in the morning? And the woman her friend started explaining, well, I get up and I go take a shower, and I get out of the shower, and, and she's like, okay, stop, that's a spoon. She's like, okay. So she hands her a spoon. She goes, oh, well, then I go through my normal routine of getting dressed, and she said, okay, that's a spoon. And she only had like maybe 7 spoons in her hand. So on and on, by the time her friend left the door in this scenario, half the spoons were gone. So that's the energy level that we have when we wake up in the morning. And I push myself pretty hard all the time. And I can feel it, and I get to a point where I'm able to kind of compensate and keep going. But a lot of people can't do that. And when they reach the end of, they say they're out of spoons. That's what I'm talking. It's like a light switch. You're just done. So we call ourselves spoonies because it's just kind of honoring that scenario in a way that was explained, because it works so well to other people.
Absolutely.
To say, if that's a spoon, that's a spoon, that's a spoon. Okay, no more spoons, you're done. And you're really done. You don't move.
Right.
You go to sleep.
Right.
That's the energy that we face. And that's chronic fatigue. And there's a particular type of chronic fatigue called lassitude that is kind of unique to MS people. And they don't really know where it comes from, but they suspect that it's because we have basically lesions in our brain. And MS eats the myelin, which is the sheathing around nerve fibers. And it does that in the brain and in the spine, all the way up and down the central nervous system. So when the signals are going, they're arcing and they're not going in the right places. And the brain's trying to correct all this. So what happens is it heats up, and the brain just shuts down. And so, okay, that's enough. That's it for the day. We're done.
Yeah.
For the day. So
interesting.
No, that, I'm going to just, I had one on this one medication like 6 months ago. And as you can see, right, we're high energy people.
Yeah.
And so the medication I went on, I could barely get out of bed. And I remember telling Anna and another friend, Julie, like, they're like, this is not your normal self, da, 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 da. So it just kind of like, I'm going back to that moment where, I was like, I could not push myself to get out of bed. But it was like, the fatigue was so crazy. And I'm imagining that like, as you're explaining it, but I can't imagine that on the daily.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's where I'm a little bit lucky to certain, because I've always been a higher energy level person since I was a kid. I've always been like that. So I'm able to kind of mentally somehow push myself a little bit further, but it's kind of like, I always tell, like, guys get this really well too, but I don't want to be sexist about it. It's like when you're driving a car and the thermostat locks up, the thermostat in the car opens to allow cool water to go into the engine so the engine can function, and then recycles and shuts. And when the hot water gets hot again, it opens up. And that's how an engine stays cool. And it cools down, it can keep going on the highway. Well, when your thermostat locks, that's kind of like what happens. It's like you just get hotter and hotter and hotter and hotter, and then you just shut down. And it happens so quickly, it's scary.
Yeah. I love the explanation, because for people that don't suffer from chronic fatigue, like having that visual in your head of, all right, here's all your energy for the day. Guess what? I'm done. Yeah. Like I have half as many or a third as many spoons in my hand as you do. And just having that visual saying, okay, so just you getting up and showering, getting dressed, and doing a couple of hours of something for the day is your ability level for energy. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. And so maybe working then with somebody who's chronically, I think that's a really good representation, I think, of helping people without that issue, without chronic illness or that chronic fatigue that you're talking about, helping us better understand like some of those limitations that might be faced.
Well, another thing to bring up too, just to kind of put a button on that, I guess, is you don't get it back when you rest. So if I, people say, well, take a break for 15 minutes. It doesn't work that way because it's your brain. It's not your muscles. It's not your energy. It's not your lungs. It's the computer that runs everything inside our body is getting to a point where it's done. And when it's done, it shuts it down. And that's all there is to it. Now, you can get that energy back, of course, when we rest. But believe it or not, sometimes you're in such a deficit that it takes days to get the energy back.
Wow.
So I wake up tired sometimes.
Yeah.
Like just as tired as when I went to sleep. It's horrible. But, and then people try to compensate. They drink a lot of coffee and they do, and that's why it's so hard for people with this condition to work, because sometimes they're in a situation where they have to keep working and they beat themselves up. It's really hard. Yeah. It's really hard. So I want to be an advocate, be really clear about it. That even if I don't get anything else across, if I get that across, just to understand we're not lazy. People with chronic fatigue are not lazy. We're not. It's not that we don't want to function. I want to be in the. I want to do this as much as I love doing this. Yeah, and it's hard.
No, and we talked about this actually with our guest Aaron, right? About the stigma of just a stigma of like a topic or you know what I mean? Like, oh, chronic illness equals this, so then this equals this, and that's not true, right? And it's just, and one of the facts Anna we had said is like it's the problem comes more from the stigma versus sometimes the chronic illness, you know, like because you're fighting the stigma of just trying to say, no, I'm not this, you know what I mean?
We're normal people just like everyone else. Just that, you know, here's the thing. I know my limitations. You know, I'm 5'11". I'm never going to be 6 feet tall. That's impossible. It's just not going to happen. It's not magically going to happen. So I'm just working with different limitations than you. But I'm still a human being. I'm still a person. I'm still, you know, people get freaked out when they see me in a wheelchair sometimes because I can't always walk. And I never understood how invisible you become in a crowd. You know, when you're in a wheelchair, people don't look at you ever. You know, and that was like, and I've always been the kind of person I'm like, hey, you know, and it's like you want to stop and go, hey, I understand now, but homeless people are going through when people just walk by them and ignore them all the time.
Yeah.
And that's where you want to tell people, it's like, you don't have to do this.
Yeah.
You don't have to, I'm not going to hurt you or give you something or infect you with something, you know?
So along those lines then, Ted, what would you say, like well, two things. First, what would you say to a person that is chronically ill, and what might you say to somebody who's not, in terms of like, if you are considering working with them or as they're trying to promote themselves as somebody that you would want to work with, like when they're, I mean, because you don't want to have to be like, hey, I'd really love to work with you, but I've got this chronic illness that might make it more difficult for me to, you know. So, but as you start that relationship, that work relationship with someone, clearly you're going to run into something where something. So how would you, I'm trying to come up with the right words for the question I'm asking, but what would you recommend to like a chronically ill person in terms of when they're branding themselves and presenting themselves in their business brand? How do you do that while still while not over promising, I guess, might be the thing, more than you're going to be able to actually offer your clients, and vice versa, when a client realizes how to, in their heads, not attach that stigma to, I'm not going to get the value if I go with somebody that's limited. Does that make sense?
Oh, that's perfect. Because you're literally describing what people ask of me. Because I'm chronically ill, I have chronic fatigue. So what are my limitations? How much can I work? What can I do? And what can you expect from me? Yeah, those are all valid questions. But for someone who's building out a personal brand, I literally have in the courses that I teach, and I teach an online course, I call it an accelerator course, where it's becoming brand aware and personal brand mastery. And in the beginning level is the bronze course. We actually have a session, and we work once a week for 1 hour. Most people can handle that. And if some people feel like they have to drop out, I have summary sessions that they can get, so they never miss any of that information. They don't have to feel like they're in a class and they have to pay attention. It's like, oh, I have to go use the bathroom. And that happens a lot. Things like that. You get tired. They can always just drop out. They're still going to get that information. So, but in the class, I actually teach learning to work within your limitations. So I was talking about, you know, obviously I can't grow higher. I'm never going to dance again. I'm never going to run again. There are lots of things I can't drive a car anymore. It's not safe for me to drive a car. So instead of being upset and worried about that, it's just something you accept. So you build that into your brand, and you let people know honestly, this is me. And when you work with me, these are the limitations I have.
Yeah. Right.
There's no reason to hide it, because then you're inauthentic. I'm all about being authentic and telling people exactly what you are. And that's where too, I don't think there's one cookie cutter. I never believed in this, that, okay, if I'm for example, I do speaking on your behalf, I do social media. Well, another person could do social media with a very specific type of social media and in a very specific way. And just because someone isn't a top Olympic athlete in social media management doesn't mean they can't do a hell of a good job. It's just going to be different expectations. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so part of what you're saying, part of what your online courses do then is help chronically ill people, first of all, create that more authentic brand that still that still demonstrates a value and a good value, I guess you would say, to people that might want to invest in them. I think that's really interesting. I mean, when you don't have a chronic illness, until you start talking about something like this, you don't stop and think about the fact that that stigma of, oh, well, I might not get what I'm paying for or something along those lines, but how real that is, and how that might be like one of the very first things that pops in a potential client's head when they do hear, oh, this person can only work 3 hours a day or 4 hours a day, or they're off every other day, or whatever that limitation is.
I only work 3 days a week because I can't physically do it anymore. But what's really cool is I tell all of my students that this is your superpower. It's your superpower. I love that. And they ask me, why? What do you mean by that? And I said, because most people aren't as hyper aware of all the things that they have to explain to their clients and to other people. We are, because of just what you're saying. There is that stigma. So whatever your brand is, if you're a chronically ill person, people are going to question, do you have the ability to do this, this, and this, and how much? And when interestingly enough, probably most of them don't have it, but we're hyper aware that we have to be even better than we were before we got sick. Because people can start questioning it. And it's an unfair situation, but life is not fair. So we have to teach realistic, abilities and give these people an arsenal of tools that they can use to overcome that in a good way. Because you don't want to be argumentative and say, hey, I can, you want to build that base, and you want people to like you, and you want, people work with and buy from people they like. Period.
Yeah. So, this was my favorite quote from you in that video, was just help you become the best you. I'm paraphrasing. I might have missed. No, but what you're just saying, I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I can throw it in there. But that's what you're doing. Like, that's what your course is helping teach people is, I don't know, I love it. Or that's just what you bring to them. So,
well, that's what I believe. It's like, what is the best you? And some people don't realize it. Actually, most people don't realize how awesome they are. And it sounds like, just a bunch of rhetoric, and it's not. I work with some people and they have like these light bulb moments where they're like, aha, I didn't realize that was the cool thing about me.
Yeah.
And it just makes my heart like swell every time I hear that. Because I'm like, yes, you get it. That's it exactly.
Yeah.
So very interestingly, what you're just talking about, like the next question I kind of had on my mind really kind of flows well into that, which is that light bulb moment when you were like, this is what you talk about a little bit in your video, where you were eating your gas station hamburgers, and then you just had this thing where you were like, what am I doing? Right.
Yeah.
Like it was that light bulb moment. So when you are, so I just want to hear a little bit more, I guess, what that light bulb moment, what it did for you. And when you just said to yourself, this is what I am going to do and why that was what was important to you. So it wasn't, I can do it for myself, and then you build your brand and build, but more like, instead of saying I'm going to do it for me, you said I'm going to do it for every other real person I can possibly reach out there.
Well, thank you for asking that, because it's a critical moment that happened to me in my life, because I'd already built a brand in writing. So a lot of people know me as Ted Fauster, the writer.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to have worked with the company in Portland, where I learned all these skills. When the company, and just to give you a quick background, the company, they wanted everyone to move from Portland to Bend, which is like a couple hundred miles away. And a lot of people didn't want to do it. And then the company wound up getting sold, and a lot of people dumped out, and I was one of them. And it was all very good. It was all amicable.
Yeah.
But I wound up doing biography writing, so personal biography writing. Wow. So when I got out of that, because a lot of, Harvey Weinstein hit, and then all the people that I was working with were big clients. So like, I don't want to write a book right now. And I'm like, what are you guys hiding?
Right.
No one wanted to do it. So I lost all my business. So I wound up going into ballroom dancing. It's a strange story, I know. But when I got sick, I'm trying to go over the weird bumps. When I got sick and I got into that depression, that was when I was sitting there and I'm like, and I literally went through a year. It was an entire year of nothing, because I didn't know what to do. Yeah. I'm not kidding. People say, oh, you sat in a chair. And it's like, no, I did. I sat in the lazy boy. I wore the thing out because I was just sitting there all day.
Right.
And the only time I got up was to go to the doctors or to go to the bathroom and, whatever. My wife would make food and I would eat from the lazy boy because it hurt so much to move. And it just took the doctors playing with different medications and things to get me to the point, and I had to absorb my pain too, to a point where I'm like, all right, that is what it's going to feel like. Okay, fine. I can deal with that. And I had to little by little, like, recombine myself to be a functioning human being.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay, enough of this crap. Enough of this. I have to do something with the rest of my life, or what's the point of living?
Yeah.
I really asked myself that question. And that's when I was like, okay, all these people that I'm in this community with now that are scared, that are in the same situation that I am, or that are going to be in a situation, they get the diagnosis and they're terrified. And like I always say, I'm this tough guy. I'm a strong person. I've always been a strong-willed person, and it scared the hell out of me. So I can't imagine what someone who's not as strong as me would feel like. Like, I'm going to help them. I'm going to help them because I believe every single person, I know every single person has a gift, because I worked with some weird people that were great people, but they had these strange gifts. And I'm like, what is that? And we built these awesome brands, and they became millionaires. And these were big, talented. And I'm like, why can't I do this for someone else?
Yeah.
Why can't I do this for the chronically ill community? Why can't they be successful? Why do they have to sit at home and eat gas station cheeseburgers and get fat? Why can't they do whatever the hell they want to do and work and make money and be successful as everyone else who can run a mile and, swim the English Channel or whatever?
And I can only imagine. I mean, clearly I don't have a chronic illness. So in my head, I'm imagining and I'm thinking, if I were down in the dumps and I heard somebody saying that to me, sometimes it's just having somebody believe in you like that and saying those words to you that's enough of an inspiration to say, why do I have to sit in my lazy boy having these gas station cheeseburgers? No, I can do something more with myself.
You're hitting it right on the head, because you don't know how many people don't know that other people feel that way too.
Yeah,
And what's awesome, and this was a completely happy accident. When I started to do my online classes, I thought, well, what if because I like working with people individually too, but some people can't afford that. So I'm like, I'll do a group class where people could come in and just do a group session. And when I started to do that, this magical thing happened, because they started talking to each other. So when somebody would share, and it's really neat how this happens too. Sometimes they kind of break down, get all personal, and it's a beautiful moment. And then I'm like just leaning back, going, "Wow, look at this! They're all talking to each other and helping each other."
Yeah,
and it's like you amplify what we're doing just by having like-minded people in the same group.
Well, you're building a support network for them where they're, now instead of it just being you, and I mean, like if I'm the person, right? Instead of it just being me trying hard and then having Ted say, yes, you can do it. You're amazing. Now I've got this community of people saying, yes, you can do it, and cheering you on and sharing ideas, because we all know that mentoring and that kind of thing is like a huge boon to any business person. Just that exchange of ideas and that camaraderie and that ability to network and that kind of thing. I mean, that's huge. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. No, I almost feel like that 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon thing. Like that's what will happen with Ted and his community, right? It's like the 7 degrees of Ted. Like, how do you know Ted? Like, oh, I knew him from this to this to this to this. That's what we want.
Yeah, that's what happens. They all become interconnected, and it's like this fabric gets created of people.
Yeah, I love it. That started with you, right, Ted? That starts with you creating that. And I think with anybody that is like, maybe I don't know, but when you create that starting point for a lot of people, it really helps you're giving them the confidence. And I totally, how you say like I guess the journey you had to go on in that year led you to be able to come to that point where you could create what you have created, which is awesome.
Well, there's incredible clarity that came out of it, because like I said, the biggest thing I think happened when I realized I'm generally a strong person and this kicked my ass.
Yeah.
And if this happened to me, I felt horrible for what other people were actually feeling, and what they were probably going through. And that's when I realized I have to do this. I have to do this.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that socially responsible, like this is now a purpose that I can't ignore because I have the capability to offer this.
And it's a little selfish too, because it makes me feel good. It does. It really makes me feel good to do it.
But that's part of the whole thing, right? I mean, like, I think so. A couple of shows ago, we had again Aaron on, and he's a licensed counselor, social work, so he's mental health specialist, right? And he was talking about one of the biggest things right now, especially in COVID, with people feeling depressed. He's like, it's because we're not out serving each other right now.
Yeah.
And outside of your own little tiny world. He's like, you have to look for ways to go out and do something for someone else to be able to get out of that funk. And that's basically what you did. You said to yourself, but he said that's the whole process of starting to heal ourselves internally, is reaching outside of ourselves.
I wish I got to listen to that show, because really that's what happened. And it's happening to me. It's like, I did that. I found a purpose, but now it's like, I want to turn it around, and I want you. I want all you who felt like me to feel this purpose and to realize that, you can have your own brand, and that could be anything you want. If you might want to make a lot of money, that's one thing. If you just want to help people, that's one thing. If you want to do activism, that's one thing. They're all different kinds of personal brands, but you can do it. You can do it, and you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to be to feel like, okay, I'm less than a human being now. No, that's baloney, And I want to be able, if I can make people, well, not make, but encourage people to get to the point where they can realize themselves then I'm living the best life ever.
That's great. No. I love that. Okay, so that was our on being a spoon. That was this topic. I mean, we spent all that time just on this topic. We didn't even gotten to topic 2, which is on personal branding.
Right. Yeah.
So
no, Ted, do not be sorry. I learned a lot, and I think we did. And real fast, I know we're going to go into this, but I just want to share a couple comments. This is our friend Sandy. Her last name is Foster with you. Like, you have a different Foster watching.
Hi, Sandy.
And then we have a Flossie. We love Flossie too. She is actually one of the co-founders of the AMSI group that we talked about, and we're excited. We have her on in a couple of weeks.
Nice.
So anyway, I just wanted to throw that on there. But no, don't be sorry. Seriously, that was great. At first, I was like, oh, this will be fast. He's going to answer, and then we're going to just go into personal branding, and then we're going to be like done at 32. Now we're here at minute 53.
You should attend one of my classes. They're all like, are we going to get over all these times? No. But everybody gets talking. You get people talking and talking to each other, and it becomes more important instead of your.
We can blame me because I'm the one who kept asking the questions, right? Because what you're talking about, I think, is just so important. Like, it's that first hurdle. Yeah. It's that first hurdle people have to get over. And I just want to emphasize, that Ted's talking about being chronically ill, but really, if you suffer from depression, if you've had a trauma or a death, or if you're in grief mode, or even just like this whole COVID-19 thing, people are feeling the emotional side of us is feeling very different. And what he's talking about, that decision to recognize the greatness in yourself, is such an important step in being a business person, I think, and continuing to improve your business brand. Okay. So
no. Yeah. And I do. And just to finish that sentence up, I really do think, Ted, you just said, is starting the conversation, right? Yes. It's just, that is such an important step of kind of the journey, is just don't be scared to have the conversation and to kind of learn what you can. So, okay, let's go into our last on personal branding here. Okay, here is my one question for you. I promise.
Sure. Okay.
What are 2 things you wish people knew when looking at personal branding? So we're going to do 2 though. That question is A, for the chronically ill. What do you wish there were 2 things they knew? And then for the people who do not suffer from a chronic illness.
So we're talking about what they can do with their branding?
Yeah, maybe building their brand, or what are 2 things that people don't stop and think about when they're building their brand? First, as a chronically ill person, but second, just in general, that everybody.
I think honestly, it applies both ways, because when you're building, I can tell you that when you're building a personal brand and you have a chronic illness, that your chronic illness is not your personal brand.
Yeah.
Unless you want it to be. If you want,
Right.
there are a lot of people that do that, and that's fine too. But it's, there are a lot of ailments that people have that you never know about, who run businesses, and they're all different kinds of businesses, and they don't say, hey, I have athlete's feet too. It's
Right.
That doesn't come out to
Right. Yeah.
So I don't encourage people unless they want to be specifically involved in some type of activism or community representation and advocacy within a certain illness, to use that as a foundation, because that there's still you. There's who are you as a person, and what is your brand? And so I think one of the things that's one of the misconceptions, that you have to use that, and you can use something else. And the other thing too is that people, just in general, they think that they're not important. They don't think they're that great. They don't think that they have a special gift. They don't think they're that unique. And every single person I talk to is. And I firmly believe that. And that's what human beings, awesome and incredible about being a human being, is that we all have the ability to be something different and unique. And that I wish they would realize that, yes, you do have that. And I'm still trying to find a way to inspire people to believe that more at the beginning, because if you can, that kind of fuels the entire journey, because that, okay, I am important. And this weird thing I do, I'm working with a guy who raises bees. He's a bee farmer, and he's this real like hippie dude, more like Burt's Bees. You know what Burt's Bees is? Yeah. And he's got this. Well, a lot of times we talk about the way that you express yourself in my classes. We call it the energy level. What's your energy level? And you have to be true to your energy level, because when it changes, people doubt you. If I'm a high energy person, I can't come in and be like, I don't know. You ever watch Sex and the City, Aiden? I only know Sex and the City because my wife makes me watch it. But,
Sure, Ted. It's okay if you don't need your wife to watch the show.
It's a good show. But it's real like chill, and hey, it's like I can't do that. I'm from New Jersey. It's like there's no way I can even fake that. So but to realize that whatever it is that you are is good enough. It's good enough to start with.
I love that.
I don't know if I answered your question at all.
No, you totally did. So honestly, I had pulled this out as part of like our final thought thing, but it fits really well here. So your very first comment, you said you're not defined by your disability. That doesn't have to be your brand.
Right.
And I think that goes for all of us, right? We might think that okay, just as an example, kind of not on the chronic illness scale, but Selena and I are both military spouses. A lot of what we do, we say that as part of who we are in our brand. And I think mostly because it sets us apart a little bit and maybe provides an understanding. So people know, what do you know about a military spouse? We move all the time. Yep. Our husbands or spouses, just in general, maybe not around all that much, Well,
we talked about the 20%. That's you're falling into a specific. It's getting closer and closer to the core of the people that would follow you, because they would get that, they would understand that better too.
Yeah, and I think I think a lot of what you're saying is recognizing like who you are will also lead you to who your people are, who your clients are. Because I'm not a great copywriter for anyone and everyone out there. Well, I think I am, but somebody else might not connect with me that way, right?
Right.
And it's just like you and your writing, like your books might not resonate with absolutely everyone. And part of finding your people is recognizing that special thing about you, and defining that defining your personal brand really is what
a lot of people talk about the word, that they use the word tribe, and it's kind of like I kind of cringe now when I hear that, because we used to say that over and over again when I worked in Portland. But it's true. It's but tribe kind of gives the connotation that you're special and independent from everything else, and nobody's as good as you because it's your tribe. And I don't want to do that with people. I want them. That's why I talk about the 20%. 80% of everyone your brand comes into contact with, up to, is probably not going to be the best fit. And that's okay, because if you're shooting out the shotgun approach to gather, let's say there's $1 billion worth of money in your industry or your particular brand touches, you're not going to get it all, obviously. But would you be happy with $1 million? Most people would. What if I told you you would have a much better chance of getting that $1 million than you would that $1 billion?
Yeah.
If you realize that you can't be everything to everybody. And you have to make certain concessions, and you have to define yourself to a certain degree to where people, because what happens is it endears you to people too.
Yeah.
People, oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, that's your 20%. Those are the people who you just help them. And that's the core of everything. Help people. And then you're not selling, because when you come and you have something for sale, they buy it because they like you.
Yeah.
They trust you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm gonna bring in our final thoughts, because you're definitely hitting the note on that.
Segued right into it without any prompting at all.
Hey, look at this.
That's good.
Yeah. He did not know what we had on deck here, guys. So this is definitely flowing really nicely, you know.
I'm psychic too. I didn't forget. Sorry.
Right. Okay, so here's our final thought, and then and he touched on it, and we actually had emailed him again. This is one of 1 zillion emails we sent poor Ted this weekend to clarify. I think we did more so just because we didn't know him, and we wanted to make sure that 1, we did him well, 2, we did ourselves okay, so it wasn't one of those like, hey, we asked him a question, he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And
you guys were fantastic.
Oh, it could be like that. Okay, here's my thought. Okay, can explain to everybody just real quickly, because I know you touched on it, but like, what do you mean by the 20%? And kind of explain that, like how you did to us in an email.
Yeah, the 20% is just like what I was saying. When your brand reaches out, a lot of people want to get everything. They want to get 100% of everything out there. And the problem with that is that it's kind of like thinking that when you're going and looking on or dating, you're going out and dating, and everyone is going to be a perfect fit, and you're just going to go out. So if that were the case, you go out and you'd meet one person, you get married, and boom, and that's it for the rest of your life. You know?
Right.
It doesn't work that way. So it's really, and this is a factor we figured out in Portland, is these people started to have great success. And we looked at there was a missing component. We couldn't figure out why. And it was fantastic. We felt great for them, but why? So what we looked at was, we identified, okay, these people within this brand, this particular brand, will step in front of a bus for this person. They just love this person. And why? Why did they do that? So we started to kind of reverse engineer what happened. What were the interactions that led up to that? And then what we started to see were trends. And we started to identify and track those trends. And that's how we realized, okay, this weird, nerdy stuff that these people have in common that gets them here is the critical point. That's the 20%. It was about 20% of everyone that brand came into contact with.
Yeah.
So my thinking was, why not figure out a way to do that ahead of time, properly and ethically, to where you understand the customer and the customer understands you. And it's a two-way street. It goes back and forth, because Jeff Bezos said personal branding is what people say about you when you're not in the room.
I love that.
And that's the truth. That's really the truth. So what people, they're going to tell you what your brand is. And if you don't like it, well, you're responsible for that. You're responsible for either educating them or changing. Because if they're seeing that, and you've all had customers that we work with, and you think you have this great relationship, and all of a sudden you find out things you don't like about them. Like, I don't know, maybe it's politically or whatever. I mean, whatever, something that you're just like, how did I become friends with this person? How did I get such a tight relationship, working relationship? Well, that's kind of your fault, because if you aren't clear with who you are, you're going to start bleeding into the other 30, 40, 50, 60% that don't fit your 20%.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to be authentic. So if you can just keep a small piece, you know, like you don't have to get a small piece, and that's enough.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's so important, I think, for people to understand that you don't have to have this enormous, huge following or group or customer or clientele base. You know, when you it is that 20% that believe in you and support you and know you. I love the word authentic self. I love those words that you use. You know, and then even just the name of your company, which is Truly Fearless Life, like those two things combined, I think just really speak volumes about how you're trying to help people in this way. So good.
No, and you know what I love too, Ted, is like, you know, sometimes people spend more time on the 80% trying to remessage to see how, and then they don't spend the time on the 20%.
That's beautiful.
There.
I'm going to start using that. That's actually, can I use that? I should pay you for that. That's so good. But it's the truth.
right? We're putting our energy sometimes at the wrong percentage and not nurturing that 20. And then sometimes you lose part of that and it becomes less in the base that wants to be a loyal follower or a fan.
They're begging for it. And that's, you hit it right in the head with that one too. It's like, it's almost like you got that sale and you push it into this basket and you go, okay, you guys are good. Oh, I'm going to go after the 60%. And it's like, they're like, hey, what about me?
Right.
And you're never going to get those other people. And it's not that they don't like you. It's just, it's not a fit.
Yeah.
You know, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm a nerd. But do you want to play D&D? Probably not. Right. It's probably boring to you, you know?
No, okay, look, I'm going to be honest. Okay, look, and he came in at the right time, but John Larson, our own guest, and Anna's husband, because we love him so much.
He knows Ted through D&D world.
Yeah, which is how we got connected. But I'll tell you, just because you mentioned it, Ted. So we were driving, all of us in a family, in one car to pick strawberries with Anna and her. Ted, I'm excited because of my 5 cups of coffee. John was in the front and he was talking about D&D, and I was like, "What?" But he's this old, and because I hadn't heard about D&D in such a long time that I didn't hear, and so we talked about it, and I was kind of actually really fascinated with the storytelling aspect of it. That's like what I fell in love with. And so I was like, tell me more. So John was just the whole way was just chatting about this part of it. And I think for anybody, like, you don't have to live 100% of it, right, Ted? I found a percentage of that I loved, that I was like, I want to know more about it. And I think that's where he hooked me in. And he knew that the storytelling portion of it was where I would stay interested, and we just focused on that.
Yeah.
So
that's the way it works. There are little trigger points where when you realize that it's almost like fishing. I don't like to use that analogy too much because it sounds like you're reeling somebody in.
No,
but you get these little nibbles, you know?
Yeah.
Yes.
And they're indicators of someone that's potentially going to reach your 20% level. And then when they get to the 20%, that's when you can pull them in, and that's when you get a sale. But that's the great thing too, is when even throughout this entire process, I was trained in Scottsdale, Arizona, through a sales institute and how to it's the Sandler Institute of Sales, the process for selling. And I wanted to kind of incorporate that too, because a lot of people are afraid of sales. But the thing is, when you're authentically selling too, when you get to that point, there is no sale. There's never a point where it's like someone feels like there's a sales pitch, because it's kind of like, how can I explain it? I want to put it in a parameter of what we're doing today, like right now. Like if I were to say, hey, cheers guys, pick up your cups, that's something simple that chink.
Yeah, you did it. I did
I
it.
would do that because it feels comfortable and it feels okay, and it's not strange.
Right.
There would be 1,000 other scenarios where that would be a completely inappropriate thing to do. Yeah. But because we got to know each other, because we got to, and we understand what the rapport is, we can read the room. We know what that 20% is. When the time comes for the sale, it's as simple as raising a cup.
Yeah. And I think that's a hard skill for some people to learn.
If you think you have to lie, we're conditioned that sales is lying.
Yeah.
And it's the exact opposite.
Yeah. And I mean, just bringing it back around to having a chronic illness, when you're uncomfortable with what's happening in your body because it's changing, maybe daily, maybe hourly, I don't really know. But when that's happening and you're trying to come to terms with that, I think sometimes then feeling that comfortable and feeling like, like what we were just talking about, then it's not as easy, I think, then to just be like, hey, cheers. Because you're not in that comfortable space all the time.
Well, you don't have the self-confidence. Your self-confidence plummets.
Yeah.
And that's part of the encouragement that we have with the courses too, especially the group courses, that it's almost like you feel at home.
Yeah.
And when you learn, you're learning something that doesn't feel like you're going to a school, like you're going to be tested. And it can really be freeing for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, we're going to tell everyone where they can find your courses and all that stuff. But before we do that, we have a section in our show that we call the struggle bus. And this is where we say to you, hey, Ted, I'm a copywriter. Selena's a web designer. And we put on this coffee chat show, and we love to chat with people. Is there anything that you think we can help you with your business, your efforts, your,
So just a question. Yeah.
No, I think that's a great question. Honestly, I'm big on outsourcing things that you're not best at. And that's where it kind of comes into realizing your limitations. I am not fantastic at advertising. And I understand advertising. It's a completely different set of tools that I don't want to work with, because I focus on branding. Just the branding portion of it. And there are a lot of other things that I understand about marketing, especially, and and advertising and things like that. But I mean, what could you guys do to help me with that, I guess, would be a good question.
No, I think that's so smart. So you're talking about advertising specifically, right? Like,
properly marketing and reaching, and then pulling the trigger on certain specific types of ads for markets.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm going to just jump in here because I've had to do it with 2 clients just this last week. I will be honest too. It's not one of my top things that I like to add as a service, because it's not my specialty. So I love that you said outsource to people that do love to do it, right?
Yeah.
But for basic, just to kind of get promoted, we had to push like one of my local clients who's a restaurant, and we just did a small little ad just to kind of, because they don't have much. I mean, when you do the ad, there has to be the intention, right? Like, okay, what is the purpose of why you're running it? Don't just throw some old post about Ted like smiling, and it's like, okay, well, what's the point? Like, what's going to make somebody pause on this, right?
Right, exactly. And there's ROI, because if you're gonna, I'm of the school, I'll spend any money that I have on advertising if there's no guarantee, of course, but if you can see an ROI, return on investment, and it's just a matter of numbers. It makes sense to keep pushing and pumping into that because it's working, and that's the portion. I've got we're still in the development phase of this business, and I'm not really going to go entirely public until 2021. Yeah. So when that happens, I need to pump out a big advertising and social media campaign also. So I need to get that out there and drive business, because it's like I'm building, and then when I'm all ready, it's like I want to go, and if it doesn't go anywhere, that's a problem, because there's all this,
Yeah.
No, for sure.
I would say from my end, Ted, you're doing all the right things right now, because what you're doing is you're establishing yourself within the community that you want to reach. And you're establishing yourself as an expert in the things that you want to be known as an expert in. And that's like the major first step, because I see a ton of advertisements for social media stuff, right? Because I am a social media manager, right? That's one of the parts of the jobs that I do. So I see all these ads on Facebook and whatnot that come into my newsfeed because that's something I'm interested in. But I don't know these people. I mean, I have no reason to trust them. Right. So I think that part of that, establishing yourself within your community, is one huge area that you're doing right now. Mm-hmm. And then it's really, for me, like step 2, because you have a whole year before you're really going to push this out, maybe not a whole year, 6 months, whatever the time frame is that you're working on, is really finding the avenues you want to reach your community through. Like, what are they looking at? What are they doing? Radio? Probably not so much, but there might be a couple of podcasts that you can put yourself on that they might be listening to.
That's good advice.
Or magazine articles. I don't know if you've this could have been another toolkit, but help a reporter out. If you aren't currently getting that list, if you can get yourself into some newspaper articles and establish your credentials as an expert in this area before you ever even do any advertising. So when people Google the name Ted Fauster, guess what they're finding? Podcast here, magazine article there, YouTube channel here, Facebook group of however many thousand people that are already.
I've actually got a really good split question for you then, if you don't mind.
Sure.
I'm pretty established as Ted Fauster, the writer, but I have to take Truly Fearless Life and break it off that, not tie it into my name.
Yeah,
so to speak. But that's where I want Truly Fearless, TFL for short. I want that to stand on its own, and I happen to be the person that's behind it. sort of thing.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have to do that?
Okay, so I actually have a acquaintance in Hawaii, and she actually has a very large following, and she's known like kind of like as a comedian, right?
Okay.
And she went on a health journey, and so she still dipped into her community and pulled out whoever was interested on going on the health journey part of it for her. And so she created that secondary program. It's not as huge as it, but it gave her the ability to start with a group. And so she tapped in and said, hey, you know, whoever wants to follow me, you know, over here as well, that wants to do this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because that's a warm audience that likes you. And what if 20% of your big following is like, oh, well, yeah, I want that, right? And so they're going to come over that way. So I watched how she did that, and I thought it was so clever because I was trying to be on the health journey too with her, and I love her and I loved her style, and I thought I want to lose weight and be funny with somebody, and I loved her program, but the thing is I still followed her on both. You know what I mean?
What we all want to do is lose weight and be funny.
I know.
I want that to be my personal brand. Let's just be funny together.
Kind of like Rich tried to going. Ted lost weight. He was funny.
Right. So I absolutely, and you know, and again, you know, if you also utilize and have your email list, that's where you say, hey, you know, join me over here. Whoever's interested, I have these things. It doesn't hurt, right? Because you might have people that want to, and at least it gets you a starting point to start building that part. And then what happens is, just because I'm going to go back to the advertising, so now you have people in your group, and then now you'll be able to do a Facebook ad and say, I'm going to target people that are in my, like people like the people in my group, so that when you do pay money for your advertising for Facebook, it knows the type of people that like to be in your group, and it will go out and search for more people. So you can kind of like target and spend your money in a better way.
I like that. Yeah. That's where I'm not focusing on right now, but I'm realizing as we're having this conversation, I need to put a little bit more energy into that, even though I have a couple of months. A couple of months goes fast, and then you've got the holidays. Who does anything for the holidays?
Build it. Make sure you put a Facebook pixel on your website, so that way if people are looking just because they're curious, Facebook will gather your information, or they're going to gather that information of who lands on your site, and it just builds your base of when you're ready to push out Facebook ads. It's collected data on people that like you, you know, and so every bit you can give.
And I would say, don't be afraid to use your persona of Ted Fauster, the writer, in Truly Fearless Life. I mean, you're a great author, right? Award-winning author.
Well, I do, yeah. I'm not afraid to use it. It's just I don't want to confuse people. But that, you know, that's where the outdoors portion of it too. Yeah. It's a weird blend because, but that's where I feel like I don't want to hide that either, because I keep teaching people to be authentic and be real. It's like, okay, I'm a nerdy writer who plays D&D, and I love to go out and hike and fish. Yeah, and I want to help you because I'm chronically ill, and you're chronically ill too. And let's all make brands. That's weird. Right. This is weird.
No, Ted, you know what you made this sound like? You know how like you have that friend, and you're like, they're my best friend, I know them, and then they come in with the story, and you're like, I had no idea about that. Why didn't you tell me about that sooner? And I kind of almost feel like that's how it is, right? If you don't say that you hike in this thing, they're going to be like, dude, I didn't know you did that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so you don't give people opportunities to decide. Like, you're deciding for them.
Yeah, it's connecting and networking. That when you talk about your authentic self, it's all those pieces. Even if they don't play directly into your Truly Fearless Life business model, it's still part of who you are and what makes you capable and really good at what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
So, okay. Hey, let's bring in, and Ted, tell everybody where they can find you.
Look at that hippie guy with the bad hair.
I know. He love it.
Cool, right? Good picture.
Yeah, that guy.
You can find me on, of course, the website is trulyfearlesslife.com is my website. But then I'm also on Facebook. There's a new group on Facebook. The original, I accidentally made it private, so I had to create another one. So just look for Truly Fearless Life on Facebook, the group. I'm on LinkedIn as Ted Fauster, so you can reach me there if you have any kind of a business connection that you want to make. And then I also have an Instagram, Truly Fearless Life, and then I'm on Twitter. So,
Awesome. There is no reason for you people not to find him at all.
No reason.
None.
Yes.
Did you like how I did that, Anna? I didn't even give you a minute to.
So, Ted, I skip that part of our show every single week. And so this week, I just have to show you right here. See the big red stop sign that you put on our little... She's like, stop. Do not go further.
I did this in my notes. You should see my calendar. It looks like an insane person is yelling at you.
That's great. When I printed this out this morning, I laughed. It's so hard. I'm like, oh, I will eventually get there where I don't need a giant stop sign.
For sure.
I don't know if I'll ever get there, but that's okay. As long as you can stay organized, whatever works for you.
Yes.
It works,
Exactly. So, well, we're wrapping up the show now. Yeah. So before we go, we always like to ask our viewing audience and anyone who watches this after the show's done, we always like to ask a question. So are you living fearlessly? Kind of all the things that we've been talking about. We would love to hear your answers. Yeah. Throw it in the comments. Put it on your post, something, make it one of your social media posts this week about how you're living fearlessly as an entrepreneur, a business owner, an individual. We'd love to hear about it, and use our new hashtag. And I'm going to teach my mom this week how to do it. Hashtag 15-ish minute coffee chat, but MCC for short. Okay.
Super easy, guys. You got this. And again, remember, that is one of Ted's credos. And so we just kind of, we like fell in love with it. So we were trying to put it in.
I'm going to, in fact, I've got big plans. I'm going to use it in one of my social media posts this week.
I am too.
Right?
I am too.
Yeah.
Okay. So we said we're going to keep Ted on all the way through. So Ted, we're excited. We have a guest next week. She is a great friend of mine, Brenna McGowan. She is from the Social Rescue. She is an email and Instagram copywriter. She is she's amazing. And when we talk about networking, I met her in a Facebook group, and she's the reason why I've gotten the confidence and all these things, and where she is part of why I am sitting here, because we've just met, and she's thrown clients my way, and she's just
somebody more confident than you. You guys are so full of confidence. And you're so
oh my gosh, I like these confidence. Oh, I know. I said we're besties now.
I'm going to say that Brenna does for Selena what you do for people, which is just bolstered her up to feel confident that she was good enough to be able to do what she was doing. That's what Brenna does.
Yes.
I when I first met Selena, before we were ever even business partners, I'd heard about Brenna. So I haven't personally met her. We've chatted on Voxer a couple of times, but I'm super excited to have her on the show.
Yeah.
And then just kind of a parting thought.
Yes.
Help you become the best you. That's what Ted does, right?
Yeah.
He helps you become that's what he does. So go check him out on all of those social media sites.
Yes.
Send him a message if you have additional questions or are interested in taking his class, or think somebody that you know or yourself that might have a chronic illness that could benefit from the kind of stuff he is teaching. Yeah. Because I thought it was very powerful today and applied across the board.
Yes. Ted, thank you for letting us talk to you for an hour and almost 30 minutes.
I love it. Thank you guys so much for having me. Really, I'll come back anytime. You just let me know if you want me back, and I'll be happy to do this. I felt like I was just literally having coffee with somebody.
Right? That's what we're trying. Right. Oh my gosh, you know what? I feel like right now here, Ted, because I'm feeling the vibe is really cool. I feel like if one of us is sick, you should totally be that sub-in, when what is that talk show on TV?
Yes.
Regis and Kelly, they always have a sub in, so we should be
I'm here.
Yeah,
sure.
I love that.
Sub in and be the co-host.
I'll probably just talk the whole time and we won't get anything done. That'll still be fun.
Selena will have big red stop signs Ted, follow the script. Follow the script.
You're worse than Anna.
Stop. That's the script. I'm here for you.
I'm going to be like, hey, can I have your wife's phone number so I can send her a text alert? Hey, I can't get your husband.
She'll come in and tap me on the shoulder. Stop it. Stop. There'd be a big hole she could just poke me in the side of the head with.
Oh my gosh. Okay, you guys, thank you again for joining us today. Thank you, Ted, for being our new best friend. We are so excited. So everybody have a great one. We'll see you next week.
Yep. See you next week. Bye.